scare you? Because I look crazy. Greetings from Kyoto. Okay. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Darian, aka LOL Not Darian on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Please subscribe. Go follow me on all my social media. Give me a thumbs up on this video and comment down below who you think the killer is and your thoughts on this episode, because we are discussing Only Murders in the Building Season 4, Episode 6. As you can see, I am doing my makeup right now. I haven't done my makeup the entire time I've been in Kyoto. I don't think I've done my makeup in 3 days. So since it's raining, I decided to take a little bit more of a slow-paced day today, and I was supposed to go to Kinkakuji Temple for my last day here in Kyoto, but I hate the rain. I genuinely hate the rain. So, I mean, I like the rain if I'm inside, but if I'm supposed to be outside, I fucking hate it, and I will be miserable the entire day and just crying. So, I have decided, instead of being at a temple where there's no, like, you know, coverings or whatever, and I'm supposed to just go and see, like, the park, I will just bypass Kinkakuji. I'll see it the next time I come to Japan, and I'm just gonna go to Nishiki Market up the street from my hotel and shop some more. Elephant in the room, I do in fact have a pimple on my face. Don't worry about it, my period's about to start. But anyway, let's get into this episode. So I just finished it. Everything I predicted was right so far. Let's start discussing. So the first scene, we have one of the brother sisters, and she is basically talking about how what we are about to see, retelling of the story from the brother sister's point of view, aka the accused point of view, in their native language, which is film. So this entire episode was produced and directed by the brother sisters, aka kind of like a like when you watch an amateur movie and like all of like the cameras are like always shaking, and it's like point of views from like little obscure places in the room, things like that. That's how it was produced this time around. I always love when they get creative with the episodes, especially when it comes to like the episodes actually being from the narrator's point of view. I feel like they've kind of been slacking when it comes to the narrator's point of views this season, and maybe even last season. I still can't believe they didn't win an Emmy for that episode. I still hold the episode where I think it was Teddy, aka Theodore, the guy from season 1 who was deaf, when they had the entire episode be in silence, like not silence but like muffled noises and things, like basically from his point of view. I absolutely fucking loved that episode. That episode was brilliant, and so I still can't believe I didn't win an Emmy, but I always hold their episodes to that standard when I think about like the narrators and narrating from their point of view and things. So this was, here's Teddy's episode. This episode was like one level below it because it was so creative in how they did it, and so on par with the narrator's point of view. The next, or the continuation of the scene, is just the brother sisters discussing basically how they were like the weird kids in school, and how when they got their very first camera, they couldn't save up enough money to get it, so they just fucking stole it because, you know, why not? And so they started talking about how when they took their first film class, their professor is what really made them believe in themselves and what really made them start investing in themselves when it came to film. And they said that he told them the best piece of advice they ever got, which was to keep the camera rolling. No matter what happens, keep it rolling, because the most beautiful footage you could ever get for a film is within life itself, unaltered, unadulterated. So they took that to heart, and they decided to basically do that with this film. And we find out later on that they were producing 2 films. The film about the Only Murders podcast, and then a behind the scenes film of them solving Saz's murder. So we see that once again, actually, a bullet was shot. Sorry, I know I look crazy. I'm a very oily girl, so I have to put powder on my eyebrows to make sure they stay. But anyway, so we see that this bullet also came through a window. It came through one of the glass doors, and we see Glenn Stubbins. Glenn Stubbins was shot in the head. He's bleeding. Zach was shot in the stomach. He's bleeding. And Oliver just like fell to the ground when the shots were going on because he didn't know what the fuck was happening. So he just wanted to take cover. And he is scared shitless, which rightly so. Oh my god. He's scared shitless, which rightly so. And they, being the crew, they immediately run out of the building once they realize that Oliver is okay. They hop in a taxi cab with Howard, and they ask the taxi driver to take them back to the Arconia. And that's when they realize, because both Glenn Stubbins and Zach were shot and they were dressed exactly like Oliver was most likely the target, which means if Oliver was most likely the target, then that also means that Charles was most likely the target for Saz when Saz was killed, which also means that Mabel's life might be on the line. Before they can even start freaking out about that, they realize, why the fuck is Howard filming? They're like, what the fuck are you doing? And he says that the brother sisters told him told him to keep filming no matter what. And they said the brother sisters, the ones that are trying to kill us. And he proposed that, well, since somebody's trying to kill you, it's even better that I keep filming so that, you know, if something does happen, I get it on tape. And maybe this could be like your saving grace. Nobody will want to kill you if they know that I'm following you all around with a camera. So they're like, okay, you can keep filming or whatever. They run into Uma going to the elevators to go up to Oliver's apartment or go to one of their apartments. They haven't decided who they're going to yet, but they end up going to Oliver's. But on their way to the elevator, they run into Uma. And Uma goes, oh, look, it's my favorite neighbors that ruined the building, because now that people are getting killed left and right here, they've decided to install security cameras, so now I can't steal my fucking newspaper in peace. And so they're basically like, Uma, shut the fuck up. Move, bitch. Okay, almost died. Move. So she moves out the way, but they make note of, that's how they make note of the cameras being installed. So like I said, after they, you know, tell Uma to get the fuck on, they decide to go to Oliver's apartment because they think it's the safest. Because, you know, obviously they can't go to Mabel's apartment because it's Dudenoff's apartment. They don't want to go to Charles' apartment because Saz got shot there, so they decide to go to Oliver's apartment. And Oliver makes the comment like, we absolutely should go to my apartment because I have the most comfortable furniture. Like, if a bullet doesn't kill me, Charles Stiff's sofa will. So they decide to go to Oliver's apartment. When they get there, Oliver starts talking about how he had already talked in the taxi cab about how his life had flashed before his eyes. But then when he gets into the apartment, he starts talking about how he also could only really think of Loretta as well. And that's when he realized that he doesn't want to leave the world with any regrets, that he wants to take the leap on love that he feels he should take when it comes to Loretta, and that he wants to spend the rest of his life with her. Sorry, I had to do my eyeliner. But you hear a knock on the door, and of course Charles, Oliver, and Howard start freaking the absolute fuck out. And that's when Mabel tells them that it's Detective Williams and to just chill the fuck out. So Detective Williams comes in, and she's pissed as fuck because Zach got shot. And y'all know that's her hall pass. So she's, you know, she's not having the best day. But she says that they're both stable. Glenn Stubbins still has not woken up, but Zach has gotten out of surgery and he is awake and he's okay. We also find out that, or Glenn Stubbins was the only one that actually got shot, but because he has a metal plate in his head, it just went through, like, you know, the tissue or whatever, and then deflected off of the metal plate in his head and hit Zach. It did not hit the intended target, which was Oliver, thankfully. Because Oliver's old, it probably would have taken him out. That's when she realizes that Howard is filming. She tells him to turn the camera off. He turns it off, and it defaults to the hidden cameras that the brothers sisters had installed in Oliver's apartment. So Charles is like telling Detective Williams everything they found out about the brothers sisters and how they think the brothers sisters are in on it. He says that he tells her that the boot print on the sticky pad matches the boot print at Dudenoff's apartment, which belongs to the boots that Tawny wears, which is one of the brothers sisters. And Detective Williams basically like brushes him off because she's like, you know, that's not enough evidence. So then he tells her about like this big long case that Tawny carries around. And he says it's big enough to be a sniper case. She tells him once again, or she like basically mocks him, but like is basically telling him like, that's not enough for me to go and do something about it. Like, I need cold hard evidence. So after that, she tells the crew that Dudenoff is not, in fact, in Portugal. He is in New York City, and he has been cashing Social Security checks this entire time. And so they're like, so that means that Dudenoff was here at the time of Saz's murder. Like, maybe it is him. And so that's when Charles asked the question, well, what connection do the brothers, sisters, and Dudenoff have with each other? Detective Williams says she doesn't give a shit whatever they got going on, and that she has been put back on the case. Jan has also been cited in the area, and because Detective Williams was the one that arrested her the first time, the feds have brought her back in to try and locate where Jan is. So then Detective Williams finally gives Charles Saz's remains that were found in the incinerator, and she says that it would be better for Saz to be with Charles, her remains be with Charles, than be just sitting on some evidence shelf. He says thank you. Detective Williams then tells the group that she has to go, but she tells them to be careful because she doesn't want to be identifying any of their parts. They're all silent. And so before she walks out, she goes, I didn't hear y'all say nothing. They're like, oh, yeah. She's like, the fuck? And she walks out. So after that, Howard gets a text from Bev Mellon, and apparently she is calling a production meeting in the production office. So they decide to go upstairs and see what all the hoopla is about, and they tell Howard that he can continue filming because they're about to go into the Lion's Den, aka where the brothers sisters reside. So they go up there. Bev Mellon says Zach is okay and that he wanted to let everybody know that the show must go on. We segue, or we have like a little clip inserted of Zach, and he is straight up like, I told her that I wanted to pull out of the movie and she threatened to sue me, and then pulled my pain IV out of my arm and sucked all the fucking pain medication dry like a goddamn Capri Sun. And then they flash back to Bev in the production office, and she says that she needs everybody to sign a waiver saying that if they get shot, it's not her fault, and that she's gonna go lay down and take a nap. Bev Mellon's a fucking mess, y'all. After that, you see the brothers sisters go into the production office in the back. Charles tells Howard to zoom in on their sniper case, and he's like yelling at him to enhance it, and like before he can do any of that, because he doesn't know what the fuck that means, they close the door. Mabel decides that she's going to go speak to Marshall. If you guys remember Marshall, he is the not the director, he is the writer of the film. So she goes up to him, talks to him about the brothers sisters. He tells them, yeah, no, if you think they're weird, y'all should see their very first film that they ever produced. They go and watch the film at Oliver's apartment, and it's basically a film about how there is a man who makes identical twins out of clay, and because he gave them life, they do his bidding. Clip of the movie cuts to who the creator is. The creator of those like clay twins, who are obviously played by the brother sisters, and it is Vince Fish. I told y'all that I felt like Vince knew a little bit more than he was letting on, but I also said I don't think he might be intentionally doing it. He just doesn't realize that it's important, like the information is important to them. Once they see Vince Fish on camera, they're like, okay, we need to go talk to Vince Fish. They talk to him and they're like, hey, so like, speaking of movies, we saw that you were in one of the brother sisters movies. Like, we didn't know that you knew them. And he's like, well, yeah, of course I knew them. We all knew them. We went to film school, or we went to college together. We took Professor Dudenoff's class, but at different times, and Rudy was there. And apparently Rudy also took those film classes with Dudenoff. So that's when we find out that Dudenoff, the kind of professor that he is a film professor. They were taught that Rudy and Vince were taught oh hell by Dudenoff because that was his favorite card game, and that the brother sisters were Dudenoff's favorites, and Rudy was very jealous of that. Vince Fish couldn't care either way, and he admitted that they did know each other, but you can tell that he wasn't doing it because he was hiding anything. He just didn't think it was that big of a deal. Vince and Rudy tell the crew that during the estate sale of like some old lady that had passed away, she had a drone in her apartment that they had successfully bid on and won. And so Charles decided that he wanted to stay behind whenever the rest of the group was about to leave, because he wanted to use the drone Vince and Rudy had to try and look into the brother sisters production office, like their back office, to see what was in that big long case that they kept carrying around, aka what he thinks to be a sniper case. The drone ends up being a total flop. And they end up having to go back to Oliver's apartment. Oliver was in a different room. He had called Loretta, and he told Loretta, like, you know, I almost got shot today. I decided that I didn't want to continue life without telling you that I want to marry you and blah blah blah, you know, basically just saying like, I could die at any moment and I don't want to die without being your husband. And she was on the other line like, ugh, and he couldn't, like, he obviously, you know, took that as a no or whatever. And my personal opinion is that I feel like she might have been sick. She might have had like a stomach bug or something, and he didn't know. And so like, those are all the noises that she could make out. But at the same time, I still feel like they're not going to end up being married, because that would essentially have to take Oliver out of the show, and they're not going to do that if they want the show to continue. So I feel like ultimately they won't get married, or they'll try to do like a long distance engagement / marriage, and it ends up not working out. But that's like in the long run of the show. But short run, I think she's going to say yes. Maybe. She could also say no, so it's a 50% chance in my book. But I do think that she wasn't making those noises because she was saying no to him over the phone. She was making those noises because she's sick. Okay, good chance I might not wear this. We will see. Because it is pretty chilly outside today because of the rain. But anyway, oh yeah, so Howard brought in Gravy, and he strapped a camera to her and said that she was going to be helping film the rest of the movie or whatever. She was going to be able to help get some of the footage that he couldn't from different angles. And he starts getting her all riled up and excited, and she ends up knocking over the bag that was holding Saz's ashes. So they're like, you know, damn it, dog. And of course, Howard, never being a dog owner, he doesn't realize that he needs to actually reprimand her for doing that, and not you know, give her praise or whatever and tell her that she's a good dog anyway, because no, that'll just encourage her to keep doing things like that. Charles, or that's when, like, you know, Charles and Mabel, they're picking up Saz's ashes, and they realize that there are 2 left shoulder bones of the metal ones. And they're like, you know, what the fuck? And that's when they come to the realization that there were actually 2 bodies in the incinerator. It wasn't just Saz's body. That's when they say that they're gonna go on the offense and talk to the brother sisters instead of waiting around to get killed. So while while Oliver and Howard are like storming off to go talk to the brother sisters, Charles and Mabel stay behind for just a brief second, and Mabel checks on Charles to see if he's okay. And that's when Charles says, you know, if it really was our podcast that got Saz killed, I will never be able to forgive myself, because it'll be all my fault. Because what they theorized is that maybe the second body was another person who was killed in the apartment in the Arconia like a long time ago. And with the Only Murders podcast going on, the murderer might have thought that it was only a matter of time until they got the drop on that second body that was in the incinerator. And so when they tried to kill Charles, they ended up killing Saz, because Saz knew that they were going to kill Charles. And so that's why Charles was feeling down. So Mabel says, let's not get ahead of ourselves. And they go to talk to the brother sisters. Go up to the brother sisters, and they tell them that they know that the brother sisters knew who Dudenoff was. And they said that they knew that Dudenoff was essentially the brother sisters' creator, just like how in the movie. And when your creator, what your creator says goes, or whatever, like what their creator says goes, and they will do their creator's bidding, even if that means killing for him. And I think Tawny, one of the sisters, says yes, we absolutely would kill for him. And right when they were trying to get the sisters to confess to killing Saz, Mabel gets a text back from Detective Williams, because they did a flashback basically of how Dudenoff had given the brother sisters Super 8s. And the reason why I bring this up is because when he was giving them the Super 8s, the brother sisters were like, you know, this is your precious Super 8s, like, you know, you don't have to give it to us. And he was like, I got a bad shoulder, like I can't just keep lugging this around everywhere, like it's time I passed it off. And that's when I knew at that moment that the second body was Dudenoff, because he said he had a bad shoulder. And so fast forward literally to like a minute later, Mabel gets a text back from Detective Williams saying that the shoulder bone belonged to Dudenoff. And it just absolutely shattered the twins' world, or the sisters' world. While they're in the middle of like trying to get over everything, it was Mabel, one of them asked the sisters, like, when was the last time you spoke to Dudenoff? And they said that they hadn't spoken to him in 3 years, because he got upset when he found out that they were going to start making movies for money, that they were going to start monetizing on their art. And they said that they were so excited to get to the Arconia so that they could show him, or so that they could like reconnect with him or whatever. And it like basically is breaking their heart, because they never got to reconnect with him and show him all the good that they were doing. They said that they were making, that's when they admitted that they were making 2 films. One of like what actually was going on in the Arconia. Am I too far away? One about like, you know, the podcast, and the other which were the hidden cameras that was getting just like all of the raw footage of the behind the scenes. And that's when the crew was like, you know, well, you can't do that, that's illegal. And they said, well, not really, you gave us permission to do that in your like rights contract. That's when Mabel and Charles and Oliver realized that the contract they signed had it in there, and Oliver was, trying to show off and say like, oh, I know show business, like, we don't, the contracts is just like arbitrary stuff and da da da, like you could just sign it. So they signed it. So they told the brothers sisters like, no, you need to get these cameras out of our apartments right now. So they start taking the cameras out of Oliver's apartment, and that's when they see one of the cameras and it is filmed at 720p. And I felt kind of shade because my videos be in 720p. Okay. But they were like, ew, as if we would ever film in 720p. And they were like, wait, so you're saying this camera isn't from you? And they were like, no. But it was a hidden camera. And that's when Charles gets a text. He said it's from Saz's phone. He opened it up and it was literally like him in real time on the camera on the phone. And he was like, what the fuck? And then Oliver gets a text and it's a picture of him from a few days ago in his pajamas in his bed. And he's like, or in his kitchen. He's like, what the fuck? And then Mabel gets a text from her in bed. Like it's a picture of her in bed from a few days ago from a hidden camera in Dudenoff's apartment. And she's like, what the fuck? So then they all three get a text that said, I'm watching you. And so that's when that scene closes and we are left with the brother sisters doing their epilogue, basically saying how, yes, we are murderers. We murdered our narrative storytelling. And they said, but we did not kill Dudenoff and we did not kill Saz. After that, we see the crew talking about how they need to get out of the Arconia, and they hop in a car, putting all their bags in the trunk, and they leave the Arconia. And that is the end of the episode. Absolutely fucking bonkers, okay? Bonkers, craziness. Who do I think did it? Oh, and also I told y'all I felt like the brother sisters was a red herring from the writers, and they were. I knew that they couldn't have done it. I just knew it would be too easy for them to have done it. I definitely still think it's Bev Mellon. I do. I still think it's Bev, and I'm standing on that. The only other person I could see it being is Marshall. This is his first big break, and he didn't want anybody to ruin it for him, so he might have killed them. But yeah, those are my predictions. You've already heard my prediction about Loretta and Oliver. Like in the next episode, there's going to be an attempt on Mabel's life, because we've already gotten one on Charles' life. We already got one on Oliver's. I feel like in the next episode, or one of the next coming episodes, there's going to be an attempt on Mabel's life, and that's going to be the one that kicks off the series of events that helps them figure out who actually is behind these attempted and successful murders. That's my prediction. Like I said, Bev Mellon absolutely has something to do with it. I'm not buying it. She could put $1 million in my hand right now and pitch something to me, and I still wouldn't fucking buy it. I still would not buy it. Let's see. It's too much for a shopping day. Am I doing too much? Or is it just too much for Kyoto? Should I save this for Tokyo? You see body? Okay, body, right? Thank you guys so very much for watching. Like I said, please give me a thumbs up. Comment down below who you think the killer is and what are your thoughts on this episode. And subscribe. Make sure to subscribe. Subscribe. And follow me on my social media. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace. Actually, I forgot to say this. now. Peace.